Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. My name is Reuben, joined here today with Aaron and Cam, and we are back to review The White Lotus, Season 3, Episode 8, Amor Fati. And before we get into today's episode, I want to let you guys know that you can listen to this wherever you get your podcasts, and if you want more Nerd Soup, go ahead and check out our Patreon page, where you can find more of me, Aaron, and Cam. And also follow us on social medias at Nerd Soup, at Beau Soup, at Nerd Soup Monkey, at Cam. Good luck with that. The White Lotus Season 3. Cam, thanks for joining us for the first episode of, well, the first review for you of the season on the last episode. So that's fun. You're like our Sam Rockwell.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. I've been loving The White Lotus all season and excited to talk about it with you guys today.
I thought Aaron was going to chime in and be like, yeah, Cam, great to have you. But I guess not.
No, I mean... It doesn't make a difference for me regardless, so.
Wow.
All right, let's get into the episode. Yeah, it's the finale, 90 minutes. We have a lot to get into for this episode because, yeah, it's the last one. Last time we're going to be seeing these characters. Although Mike White said he did want to do an all-star season, bringing back all the heavy hitters. With no Tanya, I think that'd be a little rough. But
why would any of these characters from any season stay at White Lotus again?
They do like White Lotus Mortal Kombat. It's the White Lotus at the center of the earth.
White Lotus Doomsday. They all get brought to Battle World.
Yeah, it's just in the equator. I thought that overall this was a very entertaining episode. I think as a piece of entertainment, that's what television is supposed to be, right? Yeah, it's art, but at the end of the day, you want to have a good time. And I had a really good time with this episode. I think that some of the storylines overall, when you look back on the season as a whole, feel a bit undercooked. Like there could have been more there, that the characters could have had a bit more depth, or maybe more things to do, more avenues to explore those characters and who they are and what they're bringing to the overall narrative. But I thought overall it was a good season of television. Entertaining from beginning to end, even though it did have some hiccups. And I'm interested to see, what did you guys feel overall about this finale, how it, ties a bow on the season overall?
I thought the finale could have been better. I still enjoyed the finale, but I just wish that, like you said, it did feel a little undercooked. And I wish that some of the storylines, we got a little bit more insight as to what would happen afterwards.
I think that is something that stood out to me, is that the ending, especially if you're going to open the season with a mass shooting and the aftermath is so nonchalant, that to me was kind of funny. It just it really stood out as awkward that none of these characters were going to really address that. Such a big event.
Yeah, it seemed like all season we built towards that moment, obviously, and no one talks about it. They just get on the boat and kind of leave and go home. Same thing with Loki's near-death experience. It seems like the Ratliff family got on the boat and didn't ever really bring up that situation. Although everything that happened was very exciting and had me the edge of my seat week to week, I thought that the ending could have had a little bit more payoff for us, or so we could see the consequences of a lot of the situations that were going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think last week was like the first episode that I really started to get frustrated with some of the storylines, specifically with Tim, not the Ratliff family as a whole, but that character specifically. But I really think it was pretty great what they were able to do with some of these characters, mainly like Saxton and Chelsea. We talked last week about how Rick, that conclusion kind of felt a little underwhelming. But I think in this episode, having all that coming back and him being the catalyst for that shootout that was teased in the first scene of the first episode was something that I think we kind of saw coming in a couple ways. And then obviously with, what's her name? The boss lady.
C.T. Law.
Yeah. And with C.T. Law and her bodyguards, we kind of had a sense that something was going to come to head with those characters. And that's kind of how it played out. But I wasn't really, the emotional payoff is what worked for me more so than expecting some big epic shootout to conclude the season. And I really liked the way they tied in some of those characters and built it up throughout the season and to have kind of that destructive end, especially when you look at a character like Chelsea, because you couldn't pick, in the beginning of the season, you're trying to pick and try to get a sense of who's going. And you kind of always hope it's the someone like Timothy, who, if anybody deserved to die, it's the one who fantasized about killing his family, almost killing his family, and then really almost killing his son. For a character to be so innocent and have those moments, because they kind of tease it with each group where you had these kind of happy endings, and you're like, it's just going to tear your heart out when one of these characters do in fact dies. For it to be a character like Chelsea and Rick, who kind of finally found his moment of peace, but when he's right at the edge, ready to get on the boat, he can't let it go. And that ultimately leads to his demise. So as much as we were a little frustrated at the conclusion last week, I think this episode kind of ties his arc and Chelsea's arc together. And I think that was the strongest aspect of the season. And like I said before, a character like Saxton, where he's almost unbearable the first few episodes, for him to have that moment on the beach, that moment of self-reflection when he sees Chelsea go to Rick, and you see him reading the books and trying to improve. And I think in that moment, for that character specifically, was another great conclusion for him, where you do think there are some of these characters that do leave the White Lotus in a better place mentally than when they first arrived. And I think that's something that stayed consistent throughout the first 3 seasons, but that's like the first time they really took one of these unbearable douchebag characters and kind of gave them some redemption at the end of their arc.
Yeah, Saxton seemed like the biggest asshole throughout the show. His growth and his whole character change by the end of the show made him likable in those last few episodes. I mean, we see him at rock bottom when Lockie jerks him off on the boat. And then we see how he has kind of an epiphany and is like, hey, I need to get my life together, dude. I need to figure all this out. And that conclusion with him on the beach, reading the books, trying to become somewhat of a better person and impress Chelsea made me like him a lot as a character. I wish we got more time with them, like I said before, because Saxton giving his dad the look on the boat really made me want to know what their following interaction would be and how he's going to react to the news that their family has no money and is probably going to jail.
I knew they weren't going to, but I wish we would have gotten 5 minutes just to get their reactions, especially because the whole season, it's slowly all these characters figuring out that they have nothing to live for except the money. And Saxon being the only one, his demeanor going to the White Lotus in episode 1 is a complete 180 from how he left, where he's got his head in a book. He's not talking. He's not being an asshole. He's not really interacting with anyone until he gives that look to his father. But yeah, even for characters like Rick and Chelsea, I guess when it comes to the most tragic characters you could kill off for this season, it would be those two, because Rick is, even though he's an asshole to Chelsea, Walton Goggins, he's really cool. He's got a sexy receding hairline. And Chelsea's very lovable. And not just cute and fun to be around, but they have given her some good depth. But their deaths, in my opinion, are the easy way out of making the audience feel sad. It's like when a writer kills off a cute animal. Of course you're going to feel sad. It's innocent, it's pure, it rips your heart out. And that to me is how, when you compare the major deaths of season 1 and season 2, I wasn't as sad because Armand or Tanya died, but I was shocked. I was startled. I didn't see it coming. I thought it was more impressive from a writing standpoint, the build-up to that moment. With Rick and Chelsea, it's just who are the 2 most likable characters? Let's kill them off and traumatize the audience. And it does make sense story-wise. I just don't know if the lead-up to that it was as strong as it could be. And I feel like overall the season could have used maybe an episode or 2 more to really build on these characters. Because I think White Lotus has always been inherently messy. And, even though it has strong subtext, I don't think it's supposed to leave you with firm conclusions on what Mike White believes about women and men and sex and money and colonialism and power. But this season felt like there wasn't as much there to leave me satisfied with this messy conclusion, like we've gotten for 3 seasons now. There is a lack of substance to the material this time around, even though I did find it to be a fun 90 minutes. So when Chelsea and Rick are shot, if you would have told me that in episode 4 or 5, I would have been like, get the fuck out of here. They're not going to kill off Rick and Chelsea, and I would be devastated. And then when it happened, I was sad, but that's really it. It wasn't to me a big shock either, because they're really telegraphing it up until he tries to speak to the therapist and she goes off with Zion. She's really the one who fucked up here.
I said the same exact thing. I was like, if that therapist just said something or took a moment and was like, yo, let's just come to the side and talk.
She choked.
Yeah. I what is her reaction to this? She's like, damn, I really folded. She dropped the ball to like an unknown degree. Also, his dad just not saying he was his dad. Like, why was he threatening him, playing these little mind games? Like, just tell him he's your son. Why are you flashing a gun on him? So many factors could have prevented the shooting.
I didn't like that revelation. It's like when she looks up and it's like, no, he's your father. Like, I just thought that was something that didn't need to really be thrown in there.
Throughout the season, what was your guys, like, did you have any theories on that? On like what the deal was with the guy?
We threw out so many theories with Rick, and I want to say one of them was he could be his father. He could be looking for his dad. But it seemed kind of silly.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was a little too obvious. Him being his dad was just a little too simple for me. I don't know.
Feels a bit like a soap opera.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, he's your father.
In Anakin Skywalker situation.
Yeah, totally. No, it was reverse Star Wars.
Yeah, and also the fact that he got the love of his life killed, it felt a lot like Star Wars. That's what I kept saying during the final minutes of the season.
See, I know with television, especially on the internet these days, people go too far with the theories, but it felt like they were dropping a lot of breadcrumbs for potential revelations down the road, and nothing really came out of it. Like, I think a character people were looking too much into was Mook, and it turns out Mook was just a character that could have been played by anybody. You didn't need to get a K-pop superstar. I guess it's good for marketing. But she's just there to basically imply that Guy Talk's a bit of a pussy. And that gives him the push to shoot Rick and Chelsea. It's so tragic.
I thought she was going to be the criminal mastermind.
Right. People were wondering, like, oh, she's so in the shadows. She hasn't done much yet. What does she know? Who is she working with? And it's just like, no. There's not much there. And I think their relationship is given a decent amount of focus. And not every subplot has to be great, but she's really just there to, like I said, be a toxic semi-girlfriend for Guy Talk. And then in the end, he wins. So I guess good for him.
She is such a shallow character, if that's the word I'm looking for. She like only cares about materialistic stuff like status and what position he is in, I'm happy that at the end of the season, Guy Talk ended up being top dog, but
not even written in a way that's like Chloe's the same type of character. She wants to keep dating Greg because of everything that he has. But Mook was so underwritten in that regard. It was so those lines, they were written like she was in middle school or something.
Yeah,
it just didn't
exactly.
seem like an adult relationship.
Yeah, it seemed very childish, and
even the stuff with like the robbery to happen in the middle of the season. I guess that was kind of a red herring that nothing comes out of that. There are really no consequences. Like Valentine and his friends, it looks like everything's going to be fine.
Even like their like dates. It never felt, I don't know if this was like intentional or like you said, just the chemistry wasn't there. Like it almost just felt like it wasn't even a real date. Either it was a pity date or
yeah.
Like it just never seemed that she had any interest in Guy Talk other than just like, oh, he's a nice guy and I like to be friends with him. And for a lot of the season, that's what it was. But it never occurred to me that like, if he was all these things that she said that she should be, like, it's still not coming from a place of, yeah, I'll date you once you show that you have ambition or that you can man up, I guess, in a lot of ways. Like, even then, it didn't even feel like, oh, yeah, if he does that, then she'll date him. It was just, I don't know. It just never really felt natural to me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And they took a lot of cracks at it, and they never quite figured it out between the two of them, just in terms of the writing.
The one thing I thought was the funniest scene was when they're at breakfast and Piper is...
Oh, funniest scene of the episode. MVP, Parker Posey.
And you could just see Tim's he's like so happy. He's like, okay, I don't have to kill my daughter. And then he's like, fuck, I have to kill my daughter now. I thought that was fucking hilarious. And it's back to like these we've seen it in a couple seasons now, these type of characters where as much as they say the right things and you're kind of rooting for them to not be the spoiled rich assholes, it's just part of them. And I don't think Piper's a bad person by any means, but there is just as hard as he tries and wants to disconnect from all the privilege and luxury she has, she just can't let it go. I don't blame her. I mean, I love air conditioning.
Yeah, that would be tough, man.
Like when she said like I could taste the food wasn't organic. And she knows, like,
she's like, it was vegetarian, but it wasn't up to my standard.
She's not happy about it, but like, that's just what it is.
Bro, her mom was so patient with her in those moments because she was just so happy to hear all this. So
she
satisfied.
acted like she won the Super Bowl right there. She was so hyped.
See, me, if that was me, I would just, even if I hated it, I would suck it up for a year because I hate proving people right.
It would have been funny if Tim was just like, "Oh, come on, the beds aren't that bad, right?"
I was waiting for him to say, "Well, yeah, we're all moving here." So
Right. I was waiting for that all season. No, but that between them, that they really brought that home for me. The Ratliff family, where we criticized them in past episodes for the Tim storyline getting a bit stale. But I think I was on the edge of my seat when he handed them the pina coladas. And then when he smacked it out of his hand and blamed it on bad coconut milk, I thought that was funny too. The only stupid thing that came out of that storyline was nobody's going to clean the blender. And then you're going to make a fucking protein shake with a dirty blender.
That's some shit I would do, though.
No, you got to at least give it a rinse out,
Saxon
dude.
probably used it already this morning, so it's still good.
I don't hate that train of thought, and that there's probably some good stuff left over here, you know?
He just spent time in the Buddhist temple, They're not big on waste. Maybe he was just trying to be a little bit more...
more conservative. I like that.
Yeah.
And then his dad poisoned him.
How the fuck did he live through that?
That's only a little bit.
It's the suicide fruit, and they put like seven seeds in that thing and ground them up.
Bro, Pam was talking about like if you make contact with the seed, you're dead. Like when Squidward takes a bite of a Krabby Patty. No, I thought he was a goner. I thought Rick and Chelsea's storyline could have ended with their happy ending on the beach, not because I wanted them to survive, but that felt like the appropriate ending for them, where you didn't quite nail the peace of mind for Rick, and I guess that's the trouble you run into. But I thought Lachlan should have died. I thought that was a consequence that Tim deserved for the life
Lachlan didn't deserve it, obviously, but for Tim. But I mean, that's been a reoccurring theme of these past 3 seasons. People who deserve it the most don't end up paying the consequences, and it's usually someone innocent, like someone like Chelsea. I do agree, though, Lachlan, not that I wanted him to die, but for Tim's character.
Yeah, I felt bad for Lachlan the whole time he was like convulsing and everything.
Yeah, also some of the best visuals I think the series has ever given us, going back to the metaphor of death being like returning to the ocean. And even though Lachlan is struggling to survive, he does seem to be a bit more accepting of his fate if he is going to die in this moment.
But to bring him back in that last second didn't feel natural or right to me.
Tim, this whole episode was great, dude, with the conversation with Piper and Victoria, and then him trying to act like the pina coladas taste good, and then all of a sudden they're ruined. He's like, no, they're fine. A little strong.
I would like to see some of their story next season. Like, they always bring back 1 or 2 characters. It would be funny if he shows up.
Well, no, they'll be in like White Lotus, fucking Argentina or whatever, and he'll show up and be like, "Yeah, I just got a slap on the wrist."
Yeah.
Oh, coconut milk's off. The coconut milk is off. Okay, the coconut milk is off.
Just wait till he finds out Cooper Flagg blew that lead.
Yeah.
We're up by 12 against Houston with a minute left.
That's what they're all reacting to on their phones.
Well, now he's really going to kill himself.
Turn this boat around, need more of those fruit. No, and when Tim tried to call it a night after the pina coladas, and Victoria's like, Tim.
Is that it, Tim? Have you ever heard of wine?
One other thing that did bother me was that we never got a conclusion to the him stealing lorazepam storyline. Like, I thought she was going to find a medicine bottle or something, or just find out that he was taking them and like crash out on him a little bit, but it kind of just ended.
For as fucked up as that family was, I felt like there was a lot of meat on the bone for inter-family strife, that they never really pit them against each other or even had a, when she suggested that they take out the bottles of wine, I thought maybe we're going to get like a Ratliff kumbaya. And then the next morning they all get that terrible news that their father's going to jail and they have no more money.
Yeah,
it felt like they left some things on the table when it came to that family, just as a unit, and some of the comedy you could have gotten out of those relationships. I think that's really one of my biggest criticisms of the season overall, is that I love the casting that they did. Maybe the best casting. I don't know about the best characters, but everybody for these roles is picture perfect, and I want more out of it. I'm being selfish when it comes to that.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see them have to deal with the life that's awaiting them at home. And even with the Saxon and Lachlan stuff, it was kind of just like, yeah, just don't talk about it ever again. Or even like a moment, if obviously for Tim to see his son like that, that brings, internally for that character to kind of see what he was the cause of. But even a character like Saxon finding his brother like that after all of that, and then
Right.
seeing Lachlan passed out on death's door, I think could have done a lot to kind of solidify that relationship. Like, yeah, crazy couple days, but at the end of the day, we're still family,
Yeah, I think Lachlan, his ending has that messiness that I talked about for past seasons, where he does have an arc and he comes out on the other side, an even more complicated character because he's lost a lot of his innocence. And Saxon comes out more introspective, a bit more at peace, or the potential to be more at peace with himself. So I think out of all the characters in the show, the two brothers, they probably did the best job of developing. But even with those two, there's just moments where you think, man, maybe they could have went this route. Maybe they could have zagged instead of zigging. Sometimes you zig, you got to zag. If you keep zigging, you're going in the same direction.
Yeah, I wish we got a little bit more
Holy shit.
interaction between those two after
Didn't think about that, huh?
the boat incident.
Yeah. No, and that specifically just seems like even the way he justifies it. Oh, I'm a people pleaser. I saw you there all alone. I wanted to please you. Feels very surface level explanation. That's not what's going on with you, Lachlan. It's got to be deeper than that. I don't need the answer right now, but I think that's the point of him saying that to his brother, or even Saxon saying like, you don't have to. You can worship me, but don't worship me. It's just so transparent. You could see through it.
They gave us more in-depth explanation of what Greg's sexual desires.
Dude, I thought he was lying about that at first. And when they actually followed through with it at the end, I was like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
His face, he was ready to get it on.
We got a detailed breakdown of like why he is this way. And as strange as it may be, it's just like, okay, well, it explains it, I guess. Like Lachlan and Saxon's dynamic, like you said, they just never really explored that.
Yeah, they didn't go further than them remembering and being traumatized by it. And I think maybe they're young, so maybe in 30 years they'll be in Greg's position where they think back about that time where my little brother jerked me off, and this is why I have all these strange and bizarre fetishes. But the devastating moment, a moment that you don't think you're going to get with Saxon, because the way that they built the relationship between him and Chelsea, it barely gets romantic, but it's that potential that maybe this can be more than just like a one night thing and you could find your so-called soulmate. And then when she goes to meet Rick on the beach after he returns, that was a devastating look by Patrick Schwarzenegger there. So he really showed us a lot of shades for this character.
Yeah, he's a great actor. He's been good in everything I've seen him in. I wish we could get more of him in this show or in future seasons, but that moment was great because he still had me on my toes. I didn't know if he was going to say to what's the other girl's name? Chloe?
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was going to say to Chloe, hey, you still got that offer for
dude.
Yeah. I thought he was going to be like, fuck it.
Yeah, 100%. And I thought that was going to be, kind of sad. Like, oh, I can't be with Chelsea, so I'll be used by you. I thought they were going to go that route. And I'm kind of glad that he didn't. They had a bit more self-respect.
I mean, Greg, again, getting out scot-free.
Oh, bro, that was so funny when Belinda stormed out, and then it turns out, no, she's doing a little negotiating tactic. That was a cool bonding moment for them.
I love Zion, too, because it's just like that prototypical, like, yeah, I'm a business major. I know what I'm doing here.
He walks in, he's like, Columbia business, sophomore year, I'm all about the money.
When he's like, mom, he tells his mom to leave, and there's like the two businessmen. That ended up being a good move. And I kind of, for Belinda, it's like a very interesting conclusion with that character because, or maybe not because this is her second season, so we can see more of her in the future, but you can look at it in I think a couple different ways where, is she selling herself, her morals? Is she becoming, the contrast, especially in season 1 when we first met her, between her, a worker at the White Lotus, and all the rich people, just taking advantage, and not kind of that clear disconnect that they very intentionally try to create, and her kind of going down the same path. Or you can just look at it as like, I spent all this time being either looked down upon or not having the right luck, and now this situation presents itself, so fuck it, I'm gonna worry about me for now.
Yeah, I felt bad for what's his name, Porn Chai. I felt bad because dude really wanted to have a life with her, and They had good chemistry, I thought. They seemed to be getting along and could potentially start that business. But I think we might see Belinda's character do a 180 in the sense where now she's the rich asshole on the resort instead of being a grounded and normal character.
Yeah, I definitely think that they're suggesting that's possible. And also the stuff with Porn Chai, it's the give and the take is that, yeah, you're given 500 or $5 million, but you had this budding romance. You were going to stay there for months, and you had the possibility to develop not just a business with this man, but maybe a relationship. Who knows? But because you want to get the fuck out of Dodge, because you now have this agreement with Greg where if you stick around and you're still just hanging out, he's going to be like, I gave you your money. Why are you still here? We should never see each other again. So she has to leave that opportunity and start a new life. So yeah, it's bittersweet for Belinda, but I think more so sweet. And I obviously there's the moral question, but I think me and Aaron handled that pretty well in the last review. What the hell do you expect Belinda to do? She's not Batman.
Nah, dude.
You're going to go to the authorities and they're going to be like connected to Greg or connected to fucking Rick's dad or some bullshit and throw you in jail.
No, dude, you go back to the US or go to Italy, wherever, and you take the money first, and then you just say, hey, this dude's chilling in Thailand. He paid me money to not say anything. Let me keep the money. But
I don't think that's how it works.
let me keep the money. Or just don't even say he paid you money. Just have Zion leak it. Or have Porn Chai leak it. Porn Chai knows about it now, right?
That's the other thing, bro. They're like, there has to be other motherfuckers who know Greg. The White Lotuses talk.
They're connected somehow. There has to be at least like 10 people.
Y'all some snitches, man. Take the fucking money.
No, I'm taking the money. I'm going to a place that Greg has never been, a place that I've never been. I don't know where I'm going.
I'm going to wherever they're going in season 4.
Estonia?
Go chill up with Putin.
Maybe one day. The way that boy's moving. Yeah, but I think overall, the Belinda storyline actually ended up being one of the better ones. For a character like that, Belinda and Guy Talk kind of, I feel like if you tallied up their screen time, it's very similar. Night and day when you think of Belinda Porn Chai versus Guy Talk and Mook. In terms of what the love interest meant for both of those characters, the chemistry between them, the scenes, the humor, it's just not even close. And I feel like they're operating very similar roles for the overall story, where Guy Talk even being more involved, with the main plot at the end there. But yeah, I thought they did a really good job bringing back Natasha Rothwell. And Nicholas Duvernay as Zion, really charismatic, like good-looking chap. He was fun.
Yeah, he was feeling himself throughout this show. Like, because obviously you see him in the first scene of the show. I was just waiting for him to eventually come back. And I didn't know what his attitude or anything would be, because from that first scene, he's obviously just like running around looking for his mom. From the second he showed up in this season, he was just instantly, he had the charisma. He had the swagger of somebody who comes in late season and is trying to make plays.
Dude, 100%. He's got $1 million smile. I feel like he's somebody that casting directors are watching the show and thinking, yeah, we're going to need to audition him for a couple of roles here.
Cast him for Cyborg. Put it in now. Teen Titans.
There you go. Every time there's like a young, good-looking black actor, it's Cyborg or Jon Stewart.
The one arc we haven't talked about yet is the 3 women.
Yes.
Michelle Monaghan's character. That speech they had first off, throughout the whole season, they were at each other's throats. That was one of my favorite parts in the early season, when they would just leave and 2 of them would split up and just talk shit about the other one. The whole speech that Lori had at the table at dinner at the end, really, I thought that was great for their overall story and just getting to know more about her as a character and how she felt.
Oh yeah, I really liked that speech. I thought Carrie Coon hit it out of the park, and the idea of just accepting the complex nature and the messiness of their friendship. At the very least, they're able to be at this table, enjoy the time that they have together here, and be friends, and be a bit more carefree instead of being at each other's throats like they were throughout the week. And, opening up about bringing a lot of your own personal baggage into this relationship. I feel like their dynamic, even though it was probably the most fun out of all the little groups we got, still also is a bit undercooked, because it was just like we were missing a few more scenes, maybe even a bigger fight between them. I do appreciate that they didn't go the route of the friendship is permanently ruined, but it's like, man, I don't know, maybe there's more opportunity to give, Kate something more to do.
Yeah, they just hate Kate because she voted for Trump. That was one of the funnier parts of the season.
I guess when you have that, that's all you need, right?
Yeah, I thought that, like you said, there was room for more arguments and fights and a bigger blowout. I understand that Lori left after having the fight with Jacqueline and Kate last episode, but with the season as a whole, that we could have got 1 or 2 more episodes to flesh things out a little bit more.
That's how I feel across most of these storylines.
No, I thought it was a nice conclusion to their story. I mean, it's something where, like you said, kind of just the passive aggressive nature of their dynamic throughout the season, and it finally all coming to a head for a couple episodes. I think it was a great moment for all 3 of those characters. Like you said, mostly, I feel like Kate, if we're going to talk about all 3 of them, was probably the least developed of the 3. Mostly for Jacqueline and Lori, and for Lori to kind of have that moment of reflection. I think, yeah, it's nice. Like I said earlier, when you kind of have these different moments with these characters having kind of their happy moment, they're at peace, like 30, 45 minutes within the episode, like you kind of know something bad's on the horizon there, but I felt like really happy for them.
Yeah, I do too.
Because they all have their shit. They all have their baggage, and Lori being the one to just put it out there and put herself on the line like that, to have her friends realize that it's okay to not be happy with some things in your life, but you have each other and everything. And I thought that was a sweet moment.
Yeah, she said she was just happy to be at the table. I felt like that summed up her character as a whole. It was just followed all the themes they had shown throughout the season with her, how she isn't a super actress or something, and she's not a pretty woman living this extraordinary life down in Texas or whatever, but she's just living a normal, relatable life to an average viewer.
Yeah, no, I when you talk about the themes that they were addressing for her character, and really for the show as a whole, even going to the title, this idea about embracing your fate. So when you get that final shot of them all laughing, you don't know what they're talking about or what they're joking about, but they're happy. They're happy in that moment. They're happy to be with each other. And it's a great way for them to end this trip, even though it had some highs and lows and some tough patches, some rough patches. So that was nice. That was sweet. I think it's funny that Chloe just didn't even comment on the death of Chelsea. They were like best buds.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but she was only there for a week, but they were like literally best friends the entire show. And we never get any insight as to like how she reacted to this, we never see her. I don't know. I think Chloe is just we saw why she was in these situations. She said she only cared about Greg for the money. Maybe she only cared about Chloe for the time they had together. She wasn't really that deep into their relationship.
I think my biggest problem with the 2 biggest problems is that usually when a character is in that moment where he can't decide between his fate, do I want to be with Chelsea or do I want to take revenge? And I really feel like, if I was in this position, I don't know what I would do. I didn't feel that whatsoever. You clearly go with Chelsea because the lust for revenge wasn't strong enough. If it's a situation where, here's the love of your life and you can live happily ever after, but he's right there and you can get him and he ruined your life and there's a part of me that wants you to kill that motherfucker. I didn't experience that whatsoever. Because you just don't know who that character is or really what he did to Rick. It's fun when you build it up, it's mysterious and vague, but without anything concrete, it can be a little shallow. But Chelsea also feels like too big and important of a character in this season for her to die and no one else to address it.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely sad when he's holding her dead body there.
It was sad, but it was also...
Cecil, help.
Yes.
It reminded me of the end of Arkham City. Batman's walking out, Joker.
That's funny. Yeah, in both cases, it's you got your lover killed.
Yeah.
Goggins does have some Batman to him. But and I also thought the performances by Isaacs and Goggins in this episode, as someone who's experienced panic attacks in public before, I can't imagine how I would go about faking that. So for them to just really deliver on those moments of overwhelming anxiety and panic-inducing situations that take your breath away, take their breath away, they were great. But they were hitting us over the head with cliches there between he's your father, turn around and no one's been shot except, your girlfriend, and holding her and saying, no, please, no. It was sad because the actors are really selling it. And I really loved both of the characters. But hey, at least Frank's back in the monastery.
Yeah, I was going to say Fabian really sucked, huh?
Fabian, what the hell did he even do this episode? Did he do shit?
No.
Sing that
Literally
song.
nothing. And he was there when the shooting popped off, right?
Yeah, he was.
And then immediately disappeared.
Oh, people were joking about the way Lori ran away. She fucking cut out, dude. She ran like a 4.340.
Get her to the league. That's her purpose there.
Did they all got refunds?
I was gonna say I think they could come back next season with because what's her name? Jacqueline. What if we got Jacqueline next season with her husband and Valentine gets moved to wherever they're going to and shit just pops off from there? I'm a little theory time from Cam, but with the refund, I assume we might see them come back, you know?
No, I thought about like how would it make sense for all of them to come back in a White Lotus, like you said, All-Star season. No good reason makes sense, but I don't honestly don't care if it does or not.
Yeah. I just want to see these characters again. I mean, realistically, nobody in the world would be going to these hotels anymore. This is like the third time where shit hit the fan at these hotels.
Bro, but that's exactly where I'm at with the idea of doing an all-star season. Who cares? It's the biggest and the best White Lotus.
Bring Armand back to life. Like,
yeah, I'm all for it, dude. 200th anniversary of the White Lotus, and they're doing like all the valued guests, all the funniest guests are invited back. And the ones who died are being resurrected with AI.
Saxon's a changed man, and the second he sees Sydney Sweeney,
Oh, buddy.
he just reverts back.
He's like, Lachlan?
Get those cards out, buddy.
He was killing it with that magic, yo. That was the magic Riz was putting up numbers.
It would be funny if Lachlan, he like gave up magic. Haven't done a trick since Thailand.
He links up with the guy, Sydney Sweeney's brother in season 1, who just ended up living with the Hawaiians.
That's what he needs.
Yeah, that's who Piper thought she was.
She thought she thought she was him.
You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy.
She realized she's not built for this.
Did you guys watch the like directors talk after the episode? In that they said that the next season they're not going to be on the water like how they have been in the last 3 seasons. He said
I know
we're going to get away from the water.
They're definitely going to the snow.
Yeah, I was thinking that like a ski resort. Yeah,
the Swiss Alps.
I would love that. That would be so fire, bro. And you know who's got to be in it? Tremel Tillman, Mr. Milchek.
Oh, that would put up numbers, dude. That would
Milchek's
be
family. Yo, give Milchek a family, bro.
And they have to do one of the characters has to race one of the locals to save the mountain from being taken over by the corporation.
Oh, 100%. Dude, they really should. This is an idea I absolutely love, and I don't even think it would be gimmicky. They should do Connor Roy and Willa as characters in a White Lotus season, where they're straight up just connecting the universes, because those two fit White Lotus so fucking perfectly.
That would be pretty funny, dude. It would kind of remind. It's only in my mind because I just saw this movie, but Mickey 17, the former presidential candidate, is on this like trip with all these people.
Yo, 100%, like former candidate for president, Connor Roy. Because he's such a dumb fucking rich guy, but not dumb in a way where it's so unbelievable. It's like, no, this is a real, how you would imagine a rich, just Nepo baby, you know?
Yeah. I like to believe that all the HBO universes are one. I mean, in industry, they bring up Succession, so.
Oh, yeah. Industry really fucks that. Industry be referencing everything.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're looking like Kendall Roy out here. Like, bro, how do you know about Kendall? You be watching that too?
Looking like Warner Brothers CEO David Zaslav out here. That's very specific. White Lotus All-Star season, just HBO characters, dude. There's so much potential in that. I'm not even joking, bro. Be like some Muppet shit. It's like Tyrion Lannister and Paulie.
Bring in LeBron just because.
Yeah, the shop.
Carter Peterschmidt.
Bro, and he's animated.
Overall, I like the season. I just wish that it wrapped up a little bit nicer, man. Because it had me at the edge of my seat every week, and the anticipation was getting me so excited for the show that I wish it just ended a little bit better. But beggars can't be choosers, right?
No, I still enjoyed it a lot. It's a very fun show to watch. Like, I don't even know. I was trying to think of it before, like where I would rank it within the seasons. I still think season 1 is the best because Armand is probably the best character out of any character in any of the seasons. And I enjoyed season 2 as well. And I think it's very comparable to 2 and 1, really.
It's a show that I am very biased towards. I was saying that all season because I just enjoy it. I enjoy putting it on and spending 60 minutes at the White Lotus. Maybe it's not my favorite of the 3 seasons, but still a good season of television that I would recommend and that I had a lot of fun with. And I imagine I'll continue to have fun with this show as long as it's still on air. I just feel like Mike White's pen game was a bit shakier this time around, but sometimes that happens.
Well, I think with season 1, like I said, Armand is just such a force on screen. And then the evil gays of season 2 were just so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like that was just such a great storyline and so entertaining, where you had like these wild cards that would just take over the show for an extended period of time. And here I really don't think, I think we got it in some ways with a lot of the Saxon, Chloe and Chelsea, but in a different way, not as chaotic, more introspective, which I do appreciate. I think it was just missing that, just like you said, how it gets a little messy at the end, but there was a lot of messiness when it came to those 2 seasons, especially like from the halfway point on. And I'm not sure we really got that.
Yeah, and I think that is a good place to leave this review. So, guys, that does it for our White Lotus Season 3, Episode 8, the season finale review. Thank you for joining us all season. It's been a pleasure to go to the White Lotus because, these luxury hotels, they do exist. It's a real chain of hotels. They're not called White Lotus, but we'll never be able to afford them. We might be able to rob them. We should run up on them,
We'll plant a guy on the inside. We'll put Andres to work there.
Oh, 100%, dude. White Lotus in Cartagena?
Sign me up.
I can't imagine how much coke Aaron's going to end up doing.